The perpetrators of domestic violence, who often, with the complicity of foreign states, seek to escape justice by taking women abroad to continue committing their crimes. Mr. Speaker, in this country we make no distinction based on faith, heritage or background. There can be no exceptions to equality of treatment before the law. There can be no exceptions to the pursuit of justice. The words we use and the actions we take must reflect the values that we hold dear.
Order. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. Mr. Philip Davies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm afraid for reasons I will set out, I oppose this particular bill as it is currently framed. For the benefit of the morons on Twitter, Mr. Speaker, and for some in this House, I should make it clear from the start that obviously I, along with everybody else, opposes the women suffering from honour-based violence. But it seems that I'm the only one in this House at the moment who equally opposes honour-based violence against men too. I certainly commend my honourable friend for Wealden for her wish to tackle the politically correct culture that sometimes surrounds certain cultures in this country and can be very damaging to those caught up in it. I actually attended, Mr. Speaker, a meeting that Baroness Cox organised where three very brave women, Muslim women, explained how they'd been so badly treated by Sharia courts. Unfortunately, despite all the people who claim here to be concerned about women, I was the only member of the House of Commons at that meeting. So concerned people were about the violence that those women had faced from judgments from Sharia courts. This motion deals, quite rightly, with dangerous political correctness, as it does not get any more serious than murder. And I completely agree with my honourable friend about the term honour killing. There is nothing honourable about murdering someone. And I would encourage my honourable friend to keep making this point, as even without legislation she could make some progress. But I'm afraid that whilst tackling one element of political correctness, my honourable friend has opened up another politically correct can of worms. And the main reason I oppose this motion today is because it only relates to female victims and not all victims. And I fear that we're going to have a rerun of the debate on the Istanbul Convention that we had not so long ago in this House. We cannot let... Mr. Speaker, I know people don't like any other opinions being expressed, but this is a parliament, this is a democracy. The thing...
Order. Members will have noticed that I was keen to move on from question time on time today, not least because of the number of would-be contributors to the main debate on which we're having the second reading. I don't want matters to be delayed, but the honourable gentleman must be heard. Mr. Philip Davies.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. We cannot let this trend of having laws which are unjustifiably aimed at dealing just with one gender take hold, and I will continue to oppose all bills and motions that continue to do the same. Why do we need to have just females mentioned in this particular bill? Why can't it be for all victims of these terrible crimes? We don't have an offence of female murder or male murder, we just have murder. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are more male victims of murder in the UK than female victims of UK. If I introduced a bill which said we're only going to care about the families of the male victims because there are more of them, I suspect most of the people complaining on the other side will be up in arms about having just a bill which only focuses on the male victims of murder because they're in the majority, and the same should apply here. So yes, of course, women are far more likely to be a victim of an honour-based crime than are men, but they are not exclusively victims of honour-based crimes. And as far as I'm concerned, all of these things are just as bad as each other. Now, I'm no expert, Mr. Speaker, but I'm told that the term Karo-Kari, which is the Pakistani term for a so-called honour killing, literally means adulterer and adulteress. These terms have wider definitions than their literal ones to cover all immoral behaviour, and it's quite clear that they cover both sexes and are therefore not gender specific. The Home Affairs Select Committee in 2007-8 said that men are also victims of honour-based violence. The Henry Jackson Society published a report in January 2015 about so-called honour killings, where they said that men are also victims of honour killings, and in the cases of male victims, the perpetrators usually include the families of a current or ex-partner. They also went on to confirm that in the UK, there were 22 female victims, but 7 male victims too. And the government's forced marriage unit say in their report that in 2015, 980 cases involved female victims and 240 cases involved male victims. And this highlights that men can also be forced into marriage. The Crown Prosecution Service report on violence against women and girls actually said that where gender were recorded, female victims were about 76% and male victims were about 24%. So this means nearly a quarter of all of the victims of these particular crimes are men. That is not an insignificant number, Mr. Speaker, and it's not something that we should be ignoring. And I understand that this is also particularly an issue for gay men, and they would certainly not be included under the provisions of this particular bill. Now, are we talking, as we're talking about crimes taking place outside of this country, we ought to look at the victims of crime over there. The Pakistani Human Rights Commission, which monitors reports of these, they also came to the conclusion that in their country, around about a quarter of all victims were men. The Guardian have actually reported cases of male killings, so people might want to bear that in mind as well. They cited the case of Ahmed Bashir, saying that he died after he was attacked with a sword and a machete in the garden of his West London home. It's very sad that people obviously don't care about Ahmed Bashir, who was killed by a machete in his own home, and that doesn't count because he happens to be a man. What kind of a parliament have we become? The Telegraph did a piece which highlighted another case where a male victim of an honour-based killing. Phyllis Chelsler, the Emerita Professor of Psychology at the Richmond College of the City University of New York, has also written about the subject, about actually how male victims are also included in honour-based crimes. And so I think, Mr. Speaker, there are other issues with this bill I haven't got time to go into now. But I believe that the discriminatory premise of this bill is wrong, because not all victims are female and not all offenders are male. We should be bringing forward gender-neutral legislation that seeks to help all victims of crime, whether they be men or women, and to punish all offenders of these crimes, whether they be men or women. People say she said that. We're looking at the screen, Mr. Speaker. It says crime, aggravated murder of and violence against women. It doesn't mention men. It's no good saying it includes it. It doesn't include it. It's there on the screen for honourable members if they can't read or hear what's actually happening. They clearly haven't read the bill that's being brought forward. Some people will say, well, why not support something that might help somebody, if not everybody? And I say, Mr. Speaker, why not help everybody from the start? What possible reason is there for not including men and women in the terms of this particular bill? So I end where I started. Of course, we all oppose women suffering from honour-based violence, but I, for one, equally opposed honour-based violence against men. And having a strategy for dealing with one but not the other is, in my opinion, not acceptable and not justifiable.
Order. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Mr. Speaker, David Burrows, Michael Gove, Yvette Cooper, Tim Loughton, Robert Jenrick, John Mann, Nash Shah, Craig Whitaker, James Berry, Angus Brendan McNeill, Stuart C. MacDonald, and me, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
The chair is not performing.
Nusrat Ghani.
Crime, Aggravated Murder of and Violence Against Women Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday the 24th of March.
Friday the 24th of March. Thank you. The sedentary observation of the honourable gentleman, the member for Shipley, that he will be here was, if I may say so, superfluous. None of us doubted it for a moment. Order. The clerk will now proceed to read